No.
Rob, wake up.
No. TV's Rob is unwoke. TV's Rob is unwoke.
He's unwoke.
Welcome to it, yes, sick freaks. I am your not-so-humble host, TV's Rob, and this is TV's Rob is Unwoke. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day and your busy schedule to spend some time with me. I really do appreciate it. So last week was part one of the conversation with Steven Avery talking about some nerdy stuff and some Star Trek stuff. Hopefully y'all enjoyed that. Part two is going to be coming up later on in this episode, but I figured that first there's some things to talk about and there's some things that I want to talk about. So first and foremost, I want to thank everybody who's reached out and talked to me about the situation involving my wife, Nikki, and her health issues. I think we're on the path to getting better. Don't know how much better yet, based on new current medication, which she started this past week. Oh my God. Didn't realize that the medication she's being given right now is actually designed to treat advanced breast cancer. I mean, that is some hardcore medication, and it has knocked her on her ass, for lack of better phrasing. But hopefully, we're on the path of getting her better. So keep her in your thoughts and your prayers, and I greatly appreciate it. Hopefully, we are on the path. That's all I can really say about it, because this has been a long, drawn-out process. COVID has made it worse, because doctors are so antsy about seeing patients and then getting things scheduled, and then insurance companies are being a bunch of douches. It's just been one big calamity after another, and I'm really having a hard time with keeping the levity that I try to keep about it, because it's a pain. Doctors, they suck right now. Insurance companies are terrible. If there's anything that you're being prescribed that is off-label, they take their sweet-ass time trying to approve it. It is insane. But y'all don't tune in to hear me complain about personal life stuff. So let's get on with the show. I teased this in the last episode, and I was planning to kind of release a shorter episode after last week, but just ran out of time. So I'm going to get into the other stuff that I teased last week now, such as an FAA group urging the FAA to move to gender-neutral terms, meaning words like airman or cockpit are no longer supposed to be allowed. Oh boy, what are we supposed to call it then? Well, a Federal Aviation Administration advisory group wants them to replace words like airman and cockpit with gender-neutral terms like aviator and flight deck. The FAA's Drone Advisory Committee put forth the recommendations in a report, and it is part of a broader push for equity in the agency and aviation industry. Everything has to be about equity right now. It's no longer about equality. Now we're using the term equity, which I always thought that equity was financial, money-based, equity in the stock market and things like that. I never thought of the word equity being used in such a way now. It's crazy to me. But the Drone Advisory Committee says that research shows that the utilization of gender-neutral language can lead to a more inclusive environment that draws more people to the industry and helps keep them there. Let me ask you real quick. Does the word cockpit make you feel unwelcome, ladies? Or airman? Does that bother anybody? Really? Honestly? Airman, I always thought was a pilot or a co-pilot or something like that. Airman, somebody's who's in the air. Woman, man, woman, airman, hello. And then cockpit. I know it just sounds funny. Cockpit. Cockpit. I mean, but seriously, did we ever give these words any real thought? I don't think so. But apparently now we have to, because of groups like the FAA's Drone Advisory Committee, and apparently their recommendations mirror changes already put in place by other agencies like NASA. Not the car people, the space people. Which in 2006 updated terms in the space program to become gender neutral. For example, manned missions and unmanned missions became piloted or unpiloted. There is a battle going on right now over words and speech. And it's ridiculous. And it's driving people like me insane because what am I allowed to say? What am I not allowed to say? Is this word okay? Is this word not okay? I don't know. What am I supposed to be doing? It's like in Talladega Nights, after Ricky Bobby runs his first race, he's being interviewed by ESPN, and he's standing there and he keeps raising his hands up and he looks at the reporter and he's like, I don't know what to do with my hands. Well, at this point, I don't know what to do with my words. Hence the title of the podcast, Unwoke, because I don't give a damn what these people think. I don't give a damn if I'm using the right language or the wrong language because it's stupid. You keep changing the rules and I don't know what's what. It changes every hour. It changes on the minute. So why do I care? Honestly, I'm sick of this crap. Now, I mentioned a war on words and a war on speech. If you guys would like to get a better telling of what exactly is going on and how to combat it and things like that, check out Michael Knowles' new book, Speechless: Controlling Words, Controlling Minds. It's a best-selling book, although the New York Times won't put it on the list because, it's a book by a conservative. So obviously, if you're selling books, don't trust the New York Times system anymore because if you're not on their side, they're just not going to count it. So, whatever. But he takes a deep dive into how the PC radicals are trying to control the narrative on words. So, hey, check that out. TV's Rob here. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First and foremost, it's free. We all like free, right? There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, making it a lot easier than the way that I go about it. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more, saving you the time, energy, and effort of having to do it yourself. It is a pain. You can make money from your podcast as well with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. And if you start up a podcast using Anchor, I'll be your first guest. And now, some first world problems. You know, we really got to take it easy on people like Kendall Jenner. You know, she's had a rough life. So hard. I mean, she comes from a well-to-do family, been on reality TV. She's got famous sisters. Famous for what? I don't know. Besides spreading legs, I don't know. Okay, look, she's had a rough life. Okay, she's 25 now, and she's been on TV since she was like 14 or something like that. I don't know. Whenever Keeping Up with the Kardashians started, okay? That's how long she's been on TV and been in our faces, okay? She's literally grown up on TV. Which, that whole family and that show is the cataclysm of dumbing down America. That right there shows you just how far we have fallen. And I blame them for the influencer craze and just the general dumbing down of this country, okay? Kendall Jenner's had a rough life, okay? And we need to take a moment to acknowledge that hard life of hers. Because she thinks that her fame from Keeping Up with the Kardashians, the reality TV show, made it difficult for her to be taken seriously as a model. That's right. She admitted having a famous family has meant she has had to work even harder. She's had to work so hard to make a success of her modeling career, which kicked off in 2014 at the age of 18 when she became the face of Estee Lauder. She said, in the topic of offensiveness to some of the things people assume about our family, I think everyone around me, whether friends or family, knows how hard I worked and work. She had to hustle to be taken seriously. She said, I did everything that I was supposed to do and had to do to get to the position I'm at now as a model. You know, she started modeling as a teenager, being signed by Calvin Klein, and now she works for brands like Versace and Fendi. Oh, you had to work really hard. She said, I went to every single casting, ran all over not only New York, but all over Europe trying to get a job and make my way. Yeah, you had to run all over the place, not only in New York, but in Europe. Oh, God, that must have been so hard, traveling the country, traveling around the world to live out your dream as a model. Oh, you know, girl, I am so sorry that anybody ever dumped on you or dumped on your family. I didn't realize how hard you worked to make it as a model. Let me ask you, Kendall Jenner, how many jobs have you had to work at the same time to put food on the table, to keep your lights on, to make your car payment on time, to pay your phone bill on time, to keep the roof over your head? How hard did you have to work for those things? Oh, I'm sorry. You never did. So I had to work so hard. Nobody would take me seriously because I was on reality TV. Nobody thought I could be a model. Nobody wanted me. Oh. Shut the F up. You are part of the problem. The Kardashians, look at what they've done. Has any of them actually done anything? Now people will say, oh, well, Kylie Jenner's a billionaire with her makeup line. And Kim Kardashian, I mean, she made a lot of money spreading her legs and letting Ray J diddle her skittle. Oh, but really, what have they done? The mother, Kris Jenner, bounced from one of the OJ lawyers to Bruce Jenner, and we all see the madness that she instilled in him. None of these daughters have done really anything outside of be famous for just being around and sex tapes and reality TV. Now, they may have business interests. You know, Kim has her Skims line or whatever it is. But how did they gain the ability to have those platforms and have these other ventures? Oh, right. So I have to repeat the question, Miss Jenner. How hard did you have to work? How many jobs did you have to work at the same time to make your ends meet? If you want to talk about working hard, go outside and look at people who are working hard. Now, what I do for a living isn't considered hard work by most people, but I work hard. You tell me if 2 full-time jobs, a part-time job, and a freelance gig while still trying to do this, if that constitutes hard work. Now, I may not be outdoors breaking my back. I may not be saving lives. I may not be a doctor or lawyer or some other prestigious occupation holder. But I like to think that I work hard. And I find myself insulted when somebody who has grown up with a blessed life complains saying, I had to hustle to be taken seriously, and I had to work really hard to become a model. And she says she understood that she had a platform because of her fame in the show, which somehow managed to be on the air from 2006 to 2021, but she claims people didn't want to hire her because she was on a reality TV show. She said, "Of course I had a platform. I never took that for granted. I always knew that was there. That almost made my job a little bit harder because people probably didn't want to hire me because I was on a reality TV show. I definitely worked my way up to where I am now." You have a net worth of $45 million estimated. Okay? Shut the F up. These people drive me crazy. It's like what I talked about a couple weeks ago about these Hollywood types, right? We talked about Scarlett Johansson not liking the fact that the Black Widow character was introduced primarily as a piece of ass when she first came into the Marvel Cinematic Universe and how ridiculous I thought that was. But then you have Sharon Stone with the leg scene from Basic Instinct, which, come to find out, she's full of shit because the director, who, I love this director. He gave us such cinematic classics as RoboCop, Total Recall, and Starship Troopers. RoboCop being my all-time favorite. But he said, hey, that recollection of what she said, that was impossible. He said it was impossible. She knew exactly what we were doing. I told her it was based on a story of a woman that I knew when I was a student who did the crossing of her legs without panties regularly at parties. When my friend told her we could see her vagina, she said, "Of course, that's why I do it." Then Sharon and I decided to do a similar sequence. Now, Paul Verhoeven had nothing but positive things to say about Sharon Stone. He said he thought what Stone had written about the scene didn't taint the movie they did together. Verhoeven said, "She is absolutely phenomenal. We still have a pleasant relationship and exchange text messages." So why did she come out and say, "Oh, I can't believe they put my vagina on film," which if you watch the movie, you barely notice it. It's now through modern technology that we get to see it in all its glory. I want to pause for a second to talk about protein bars. We've all seen them, and we've most likely tried a few of them while trying to lose weight or just get healthier. But what's the biggest problem with all of them? Well, basically, they all taste like crap. They're hard to chew, they taste awful, and they don't provide any type of actual satisfaction. But I'm happy to say that I have found one out there that isn't anything like the rest, and that is Built Bar. Built Bar is healthier than all those other protein bars. They're low calorie, low sugar, high protein, high fiber. They're great for keto diet. Lose or maintain weight while indulging in a delicious treat. Each bar contains only 110-160 calories, 16 to 20 grams of protein, and 3 to 5 net carbs. Enjoy the healthiest thing you'll do today. When you eat a Built Bar, you feel better about yourself because healthy has never been this delicious. Built Bars are a lot like a candy bar, but good for you. They have 18 different flavors, including some of my own personal favorites: cookies and cream, strawberry, peanut butter, and mint brownie. All of their bars are covered in 100% chocolate. So you're probably saying to yourself, "TV's Rob, how do I get these? Where do I go?" All you gotta do, go to BuiltBar.com, use the promo code TV's Rob to get 10% off your next order. Use promo code TV's Rob for 10% off at BuiltBar.com. Trust me, you'll love them. I do. BuiltBar.com, promo code TV's Rob.
He's on woke.
And now, without any further ado, here is part 2 of my conversation with Steven Avery on all things Trek. But stick around because there are some surprising little tidbits in there that you'll want to hear, including a little bit more information about what Steven Avery does, and then a peek behind the curtains of Casa de TV's Rob.
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its continuing mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before.
My wife and I have had this discussion a few times. She cannot get into TNG at all. And she enjoys certain things about it, but the thing that she absolutely just cannot stand is the fact that the series is just so cliquey. She's like, you have the main cast, and that's pretty much it. It's just one big clique. Anytime they try to bring somebody else in, it always falls flat. She pointed to Pulaski, but she didn't care for her either. But the character she pointed to the most was Reginald Barkley. She hated the way they always treated Barkley.
I loved Barkley, and I thought.
So does she. I mean, she absolutely. She knew him from being Murdoch in the A-Team, the actor.
Yes.
So she was all about him, but she also liked the character.
When you really look at it, there's almost a sense of click throughout all the series when it comes down to it, because the people that they're focusing more on are the ones that are in the decision-making positions, right? Nobody really cares about the guy down in engineering who's doing maintenance on the EPS conduits, right? That's pretty much all he does all day. He's not the one that's getting called out to go on the different adventures and whatnot. So it's kind of hard to not make the show cliquey in a way. But that's where they come in with some of these other characters like Reginald Barkley, who, okay, he may not be, the big decision maker in engineering or whatnot, but he's got a pretty quirky mind, and he can approach things from a direction that the other guys maybe don't necessarily think from. And so this is a guy that we can use from time to time in order to inject a different element of problem solving, right? Such as, I can't remember the name of the episode, but the one where he was going nuts about the transporters and he kept thinking he was seeing things in there and whatnot. And finally he's like, you know what? Just stick me in the transporter stream for a moment. He's like, oh, I know what this is. And he grabs it, and it turns out it's people that trap themselves in the transporter stream trying to escape something. I think probably my favorite thing about him is his holodeck obsession and how that has led to him being able to accomplish different things. Like when he showed up in the Voyager series, and he basically built himself a life within the Voyager crew itself as he tried to figure out how to get them home.
Yeah, but he programmed them to be a bit more amenable to him than he received on the Enterprise. I mean, they all kind of worshipped him, thought he was the funniest guy, thought he was the most brilliant guy.
I mean, that's the way it's been with his holodeck pursuits from Hollow Pursuits, the episode I believe where we meet Reginald Barkley.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, he had some interesting fantasies there.
Yes, he did.
The goddess of empathy. Yes.
How about the way he looked at Riker? Right, he made Riker short,
overcompensating midget.
Exactly, right. So that aspect of the character, I found absolutely fascinating. Is he somebody that I would necessarily want to watch every episode? Not really, but the way that they brought him in and the way that they've brought other characters in that kind of fashion absolutely worked. So the way I've always looked at it is you can't really approach the different series based on the characters. You have to approach it based on the premise, right? I mean, the original series speaks for itself. For hundreds of years in the future, what's humanity doing now that we're out amongst the stars, right?
Apparently trying to bone every alien species known to man.
Exactly, right? And then you got the Next Generation, which is following huge political shifts that we've seen in real life, right? Because you got the original series, we're in the middle of a Cold War and everything like that, right?
And the Klingon Empire was very much, the way they depicted it was very much an ally versus, the Soviets type of relationship.
Exactly. So we move from the original series to the Next Generation. Political climates have changed, right? Biggest one that they portrayed in the Next Generation. Instead of shooting at each other all the time, Federation and Klingons are now allies,
Mhm.
right? And so with the big political changes, we've got new technology changes. What is humanity doing now, right? Then you move on to Deep Space Nine. Now, instead of the deep space exploration type stuff, you got a group who is being put in charge of a station that's technically not theirs. And how do you interact with this group of aliens who really just wants to be left alone? The only reason you're there is because they just got liberated from occupation. They don't really know how to be on their own at the moment. So you're kind of there at their begrudging acceptance. And all of a sudden now they're becoming a major player in the universe because we found this way to get to a completely different part of the galaxy, and you have to go through them to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're at war with somebody we found in these unknown reaches, right? So, instead of being all over the place at once, what are they doing in just their one little corner, right? And then probably the greatest premise out of that entire line, you're one ship on your own and technically nobody to account to, because by all rights, it's going to be 70,000 years before you see anybody that would be able to do anything to you anyway. How do you handle things? Right? So all 4 series, for their times when they were written, absolutely beautifully done. You cannot really look at them based on who are the characters, what are the characters doing. You have to look at the premise behind the different series in order to really get what's going on and to properly appreciate it.
You mentioned the premise for Voyager, and there's one character on there that you have to feel really bad for, that is Harry Kim, because
7 years and guy can't get a promotion or a girl.
I mean, you promoted Tuvok,
promoted, demoted, and re-promoted Paris.
Yep, that exactly. And
you got people who weren't even on the ship to begin with that got promoted over him.
Exactly. One was made the first officer, and I mean, come on. And then, and the absolute best thing about Voyager came in season 4.
Yes.
That's all. Yes.
Yes.
And
she almost took Gates McFadden's place on Childhood Crushes when that happened. Almost.
She was definitely the teenager fresh into puberty fixation for yours truly.
And I don't care what anybody else says about that series. I thought it was actually pretty well done, but what they did with her character in Picard,
I was just about to get
loved
to that.
It. Loved
it. Whoa. Hold on. We're going to have to dive deep into that. But to shut the book on Voyager, Catherine Janeway, most overrated Starfleet captain ever. Just going to throw that out there. People say, "Oh, she was by far the best because she got this crew home that was so far away from Earth and da 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 da." I'm thinking, she murdered Tuvix, okay?
I look at the captains like I look at the different series. You cannot really compare the different captains to each other because the captains all operated in different arenas, right? Kirk had cowboy diplomacy, right? They didn't have very fast communication with Earth back then. It was very much like today where you got to make decisions quick. You don't necessarily have backup, right? You got to do what you got to do, right? Picard, it's a very different theater. Starfleet's moved away from being, let's be perfectly honest, right? Starfleet is an Earth organization. It's not a Federation organization. Starfleet is an Earth organization. So when people are like, "Oh, Starfleet doesn't have enough diversity," Starfleet's an Earth organization. Of course, it's going to be primarily manned by humans, right? They do open it up to other races. They have no problem with
any member world of the Federation they can join, but most of them have their own
and as we've seen,
defense forces and
they'll take non-members as well. Granted, he was technically a citizen of the Federation because he was adopted by humans, but Kronos is not a member world of the Federation. But they had a Klingon.
And then later on, you had a Ferengi.
Exactly.
Who saw that coming? You had Bajorans.
Right.
You had Bajorans in Starfleet.
Yep. Exactly.
Before the Federation even had a formal relationship with Bajor. So
precisely. But in the original, Starfleet was pretty militaristic simply because they were the primary defense for Earth. Right. Mm-hmm. As they started to grow and expand, they moved away. They were still a defense force, but they started to expand more into exploration, diplomacy, and stuff like that. And that's where Picard comes in, right? He's the diplomat who can,
throw down when needed.
Throw down when needed, right? Sisko was by far more an administrator than anything, right?
But man, did he step up.
Very much so.
He got rid of Q in one episode by punching him in the face.
Probably the best dealing with Q ever. But his was all about how do you run this station that in the end you're really not in charge of to begin with, right?
Yeah, how do I straddle this fence and the added pressure that was put on him by the Bajoran
technically
people.
I work for these guys, but it's their station, so if they tell me that I got to do something, right? And on top of that, I'm on the front line of a war.
Exactly,
right?
Yeah.
And then last but not least, you got a woman who's pretty daggum by the book, except she's got really no book to refer to because there's nobody out there to answer to. She's on her own. She basically had to write her own book. So none of the captains had anywhere near similar experiences to each other. So to say, oh, this captain was better than that one, like, how do you think Kirk would have been if he had been flung 70,000 light years across the galaxy and had to get home?
I know exactly how he would have been.
Right?
There would have been a lot of human penetration in every culture.
Very much so. A lot of penetration into different cultures and a lot of penetration into alien women.
I wasn't going to specify that, but yeah, a lot of penetration.
I will.
Human penetration.
I mean, Sisko in the old days, they're probably, the way that he handled things, I don't know that the Klingons would have bothered coming as close to the Federation as they did a lot of times. Not to say that Kirk didn't handle them properly, but just the way that Sisko, he slapped the living shit out of an omnipotent being. I don't think he would have had any problem taking it to the Klingons if they sufficiently pissed him off.
Which he did. He did. Because you had the big battle between Gowron and Sisko, and then before you know it, as soon as Gowron got his ass whooped by the Dominion and everything, Sisko's right there with a little pad saying, "Just sign here, and I'll make we'll help you, fight these bastards."
Exactly. Come on. So, he
single-handedly dismantled the Khitomer Accords and then reinstated them.
Pretty much.
Come on. That's boss.
Definitely.
And he was the only captain with a kid. And he was the only captain that didn't start off as a captain.
The only captain with a kid that we know of. God only knows how many Kirk had.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we know of one. But we didn't know about him till he was an adult.
and we barely got to know him.
We lost him. We lost him far too soon. And it looked like David was hot on that Savick tail too. Until
I didn't like what they did with that character. I loved her. I loved her when they first introduced her. I thought Kirstie Alley did beautifully with it.
Yeah, and the whole thing where she didn't come back, and when you find out the whole reason why, it's so effing stupid.
Yeah,
it was always reported that she wanted too much money. She wanted too much money to come back because she had been She had gotten the Cheers gig, and she thought her star was much higher than what it was. Well, come to find out, it wasn't her. It was her agent.
Mm-hmm.
The agent screwed her out of that job. Otherwise, she said that she wanted to come back. She said if she had known, she would have taken less money to do Star Trek 3 than what she did for 2, knowing what the size of the role was. But the agent misrepresented the interest. I mean, because I thought she played that really well. And then when you find out the future plans for that character that got abandoned, oh damn. Because that could have been Kirstie Alley in Star Trek 6, betraying Starfleet, betraying the Federation, instead of Kim Cattrall as Valeris.
Could have been. I mean, I don't think they could have really taken it down the road of Saavik. I think it still would have been Valeris. But I mean, they had all sorts of plans for Saavik, and it makes me wonder if Kirstie Alley had stuck with it. Not to say
if her agent hadn't screwed the pooch.
If her agent hadn't screwed the pooch, if Kirstie Alley had still been Saavik, would they have gone with it? Because I think a lot of the reason why she disappeared was because they switched to the other actress, and people were like, "Who the hell is this?"
Yeah, I mean, and the actress decided that she needed to differentiate herself from how Saavik was portrayed before, so she went straight Vulcan.
Which was wrong, because Saavik was not straight Vulcan, right?
There was more nuance. She used the human vernacular. She showed emotion at the end when Spock's tube was being shot from the ship.
You know why?
Because she was supposedly part Romulan.
Exactly. Which was why I thought the way that Kirstie Alley portrayed her, especially when it came to the Kobayashi Maru scenario, the way she went into that, I thought was beautiful for a Vulcan-Romulan hybrid, right? And the way that she kept, you could see the frustration every time Kirk gives an order, and she's, "Can't do that, Captain," right? And she's trying to keep herself calm and collect. You can see she just wants to turn around and be like, "No, you can't do that." But she's like this.
And she's looking at Spock saying, "How have you dealt with this motherfucker all these years?"
Exactly. Right?
Doesn't this guy just piss you off?
So, just watching all that, and the way that she goes back, and especially running into her other lieutenant, "You've done something with your hair." It's still within regulation.
That's not what he was looking at.
Yes.
That's not what he was looking at. Because this was young, hot Kirstie Alley.
Yes, very much so. But
and she was wearing that top that was low cut.
Yes.
That gave you just enough of a hint.
Indeed.
And knowing the Kirk character, you're like, he ain't looking at her hair. But, good on him pointing out the hair.
Mm-hmm. But and just the way that she reacted, because this is supposed to be a Vulcan, but you can see the flush and the way that she reacted. It's still in regulation, Which that's definitely not a Vulcan trait, the vanity of the hair and stuff like that. So
exactly, I'm with you there.
But yeah, that other actress came in and she just completely ruined it, because she was like, I want to differentiate myself from the way Kirstie Alley did it, and she went the straight Vulcan route, which is not what that character was.
Yeah, and for Star Trek 6, they had originally written the Vulcan officer to be Saavik. When they called Kim Cattrall about it, and she said, "I don't want to be the third actress to play that part."
And again, I think suddenly turning Saavik into a traitor like that just would have.
Because there was no natural progression towards it. Yeah.
Well, not just that, but just after how we knew her before, and then suddenly turning around and making her a traitor like that would have ruined it for too many people, natural progression or not.
I mean, you could say that we almost know her as a rapist. As a pedophile rapist, because allegedly at the end, when they leave her behind on Vulcan in Star Trek 4, she was still in Starfleet. She was still in uniform. Why didn't she go back to Earth with the crew? Apparently, she was staying behind because she was carrying Spock's baby. Which, when Spock first experienced Pon farr,
yes,
when he couldn't speak and he couldn't give consent, she settled the burning blood Vulcan desire.
Well, I mean, he
That's it. That's if, only if you go deep into the rabbit hole. You could see her as a pedophile rapist. You could see her as a Joe Biden-like character.
And this is where I might come across sounding as a little weird, because we're talking about a completely different culture that has learned to address different things in different ways. I mean, the way Vulcans have approached their life, their ways have changed in so many ways. I mean, Pon farr is almost kind of like the karmic retribution for, okay, you're going to push down all of your emotion. Well, guess what? Every 7 years, you're going to want to fucking throw down and, go at it like bunnies, because you don't show emotion any other time. And so, I mean, and when's the first time that's going to pop up, right? Stuff like that's going to pop up in puberty.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, societally speaking, I don't necessarily know how they would address that on Vulcan, but they weren't.
I'm sure it would be totally acceptable,
right? And I mean,
given the circumstances.
Who's to say
she was the only Vulcan around?
Who's to say that they wouldn't have had a Vulcan of appropriate age around with him at that time? Or, I mean, who knows?
Exactly. Yeah.
We really don't understand a whole lot about that side of Vulcan society, because they never really fleshed that out. But that's one of the big things about Pon farr is if they don't do this, they die. So it's kind of and that's like I'm saying, somebody's probably going to look at me like, oh my God, what's wrong with this guy? But they're the only Vulcans there. She's the only one that can help him through it, and he looked 18 to me.
Yeah. It's not like she enjoyed it.
So I mean.
I think your take is very accurate. I think that is a very thought out argument for that.
So, I mean,
I'm with you. I'm with you on it.
I'll be perfectly honest. I never stopped to think about what age he actually was at that.
Neither did I. I just saw the fan theory online, and I'm thinking, really? That's where we're going with this. Okay.
I couldn't see it, especially being as long-lived as Vulcans are. I could see where, because of that, they might go through those stages later than like a human would. So he could very well have been, well above even human age of consent. And I mean, like I said, when did they consider, to go from the age of minority to the age of majority?
Right? Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And at the same time, I mean, like you said, he looked 18. So we were, before we detoured, since when we were talking about Voyager, we mentioned the greatest contribution to that series being 7 of 9.
Yes.
Portrayed by Jerry Ryan.
Jerry Ryan.
And you actually said something that struck me, and that was how they progressed her character in the new series Picard.
Mm-hmm. I'm
curious as to your reasoning behind that. I agree with you up to a point, and I want to see where you stand on everything.
I mean, I don't fully remember everything, and I don't know the entire backstory leading up to when we encounter her there. But, one of the big things on the ending of Voyager was she was with Commander Chakotay, right? They were going to start a life together and, live happily ever after. So now, she's supposed to be integrating into human society. Everybody's back home and whatnot. Just like many other things, right? Because now you got the explosion of the Hobus star that's completely changed a whole lot of different things. Romulan society is basically gone, right? You've got human society that's basically put the kibosh on a lot of things. synthetic beings are basically not allowed at all anymore because somebody hacked into a bunch of them and goes about a bunch of things. So, people change, situations change. So what if, now the people that she was counting on to help her integrate into what should have been her home in the first place, she's not with them anymore. Right? Things didn't go so well with Chakotay. Everybody else that she knows is basically gone. And she's alone in essentially an alien society because she didn't grow up there. And now she's got to find her way. Right? And so the way that they took the Romulans were experimenting with Borg technology. And how do you think that's going to look? How do you think somebody who is a former Borg is going to feel about that? Right? So the fact that when it comes to going into that situation, right, the way she's going to feel about how they're handling that type of stuff, and, on top of that, she's angry that the first person she's loved is not in her life, right? All her friends are God knows where, doing God knows what, right? Yeah. So, and of course, naturally, who's the one person that she's really going to form a bond with after that? The former Borg Q, who has been liberated from the collective and is once again a human in his own right. And
which was so cool. That was so cool bringing him
That
back.
was awesome. When I realized that's who that was, oh my God, I about had a heart attack.
Yeah. Same actor and all. I love the fact that it was the original actor who portrayed that character.
And
it was
exactly.
It was great. And the bond he had with Picard, even after all of those years. I mean, he was when Picard was having a pure freak out PTSD style moment on the Borg cube. Hugh was the guy who picked him up and said, "You are not Locutus of Borg. You are Jean-Luc Picard."
Exactly. So,
but just because Picard still struggled with that, even after all of those years, that was really, really good casting and really good move, writings and everything for that particular part. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. But just those different elements. I thought the way that Jerry Ryan went in and played, 7 of 9 in that way. We're years down the road and these different things, have gone on. I thought the way she handled her character, and that was just absolutely brilliant, especially when it came to, okay, I need to find some way in order to, cause a distraction, basically. What's the best way to do it? I'm going to play Borg Queen for a few minutes, bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the character development that they showed with her, I like the fact that she wasn't a member of Starfleet. She was not your model Starfleet officer. That was cool.
Absolutely.
She was part of the Fenris Rangers. That was cool. I love how she went out for revenge after, on Voyager, we had this little group of Borg children. Well, one of them stayed, and she, for better or for worse, with it, knowing it or not knowing it, she developed those maternal instincts on this one Borg child. Even in the Voyager series, she had this maternal instinct towards him. Hey, something's fishy about this boy's parents. What's going on here? Oh, come to find out, he was a sacrificial lamb to the Borg so they wouldn't mess with his planet.
Exactly.
Oh my God. And when Icheb is captured and he is basically stripped for parts, she finds him and she finishes the job. Basically, it was a mercy killing.
Yeah,
but that fucked her up
very much so, which is probably what led to her not being with Chakotay anymore and all that jazz. But yeah, I mean the progression that they took her through, I thought was just absolutely brilliant. I loved it.
And I'm with you. I am right there with you.
The character progression point in that whole thing that I really did like was, we're going to turn Picard into an android.
Yeah. I think that
I liked the way that they took his character through most of it, especially when he was sitting there in that one admiral's office and basically telling her, you're a piece of fucking shit for the way that you've done this, that, the other. And I don't care who you are. I've heard a lot of people complain about, oh, this isn't real Star Trek because of this, but I thought the F-bombs in that series were just absolutely brilliant because we have spent so long looking at Star Trek and it's supposedly the perfect society, and for once, seeing human beings act like fucking human beings was just absolutely awesome to me. I was like, this is Star Trek.
Well, and I get that. Okay, we can't say it on broadcast television, so obviously you were limited there.
Yes.
And you're not gonna throw it out so much in the movies just because you can, because oh wait, you've developed an audience, you've developed what people expect. I mean, in Star Trek Generations, when Data says "oh shit," that threw people for a loop. And I'm thinking, well, I mean, Spock said "go to hell," and we had double dumbass on you in Star Trek 4.
If I were human, I believe my response would be "go to hell." Quite possibly one of the greatest lines in the originals.
And the fact that everybody turns and looks at him and they're like, "What?" And
if I were human,
he just deadpans and he just turns his head and he says, "If I were human."
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, if it's cool with Spock, all right, let's go.
Yeah, But that was definitely one of the greatest moments of Star Trek, was going through the Picard series.
And do you expect me to believe that 400 years from now we're not going to say fuck? I mean,
no, not at all.
It is the ultimate utility word. So
they've got a whole YouTube clip on it and everything.
Exactly. I mean, comedians have done long bits about it. I mean, we know what. So I didn't have a problem with the language. I was expecting a grittier, since this is on streaming only. Yeah. I was expecting something more like that.
And that's what we got. We got, the darker side of Starfleet. We got the darker side of the Federation. We got attacked by, these android beings, and because of what happened here, we're going to ignore the living hell out of you, who's about to be blown up by a damn supernova, and your society is going to die because we decided we're not going to help you out because we just got attacked over here. Completely human thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Which, of course, leads to where Picard is in that series. So,
where he takes his ball and goes home.
Yeah, he's just, you know what? This is what Starfleet is now? Okay, fuck that shit. I'm not in this anymore. Right? Hell, who's he living at home with now? 2 Romulans.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
Showing who he is. He didn't give up. He did what he could, with what he had available then, helped as many as he could. He even gave 2 of them homes on the family vineyard. Right? Mm-hmm. Still being who he is, not changing just because somebody else decided to do things this way.
Yeah, he disagreed with the entire Android policy because he knows he knows better. He's still torn up over the loss of Data. He's upset over the way that they handled the Romulan situation.
Yep.
So he basically just took his ball and went home. Now he left a lot of things undone.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't tie up all of his loose ends before taking his ball and going home.
No.
I mean, he hurt former crewmates, and of course, the Romulans and everything else. I mean, he literally just took his ball and went home and said, "Fuck this shit, I'm out."
Yeah, showing that even everybody admired him for 7 years and for 4 movies. And then, seeing what happens to a guy when he's just like, what? Makes one decision because he can't handle the way everybody else did and the effect that it had on other people. Which, of course.
When he lost faith in the organization to which he had dedicated his entire life to.
Yeah.
I mean, that broke him. And when you mentioned turning him into an android at the end of the season, I think that the writers... I think they pigeonholed themselves, planning on this being just a 1-season outing. It was going to be just a limited series. Mm-hmm. And then when CBS was saying, "Oh, no, we want season 2 and probably season 3."
Which
they're like, well, shit, what do we do?
no, the entire premise.
And it looks like that whole thing is being retconned.
Yeah, the entire premise of it was a bad idea. I mean, not the Picard season itself was brilliantly done. I thought I loved it to death. A lot of people have been like, I didn't like it at all. I personally loved it, and I think it. Like if they had killed Picard at the end, I'd have been fine with that. He set out on one last mission, and basically stuck a big FU to the organization that basically just dropped everything he believed in and said, "This is how you do it, bitches." And if he had died at the end of that, I'd have been perfectly fine with that because that's the way Picard should go out, right?
Yep.
So with this whole,
a total boss moment,
exactly, especially going and finding his former first officer and being like, "Will, I need your help one more time," and then he flies in the face of that massive fleet and says, "You ain't touching my captain, bitches."
Yeah, I mean the loyalty that Picard inspired in people. I mean, Riker was on inactive duty.
Yeah,
just living his life on a planet with Deanna Troi and kid and everything, and it was all good. And
that's fine with me.
Picard shows up and he's like, "You're always welcome here. It's been far too long since I've seen you." And they catch up, and then it's "Hey, I need a favor," and
Yep.
Riker's like, "I got you." And not only did Riker have him, Riker flat out just, I mean, the thing with Riker has always been like big dick energy, big dick slinging.
Mm-hmm.
He lived up to it in that final showdown.
He didn't even need details.
That was perfect.
As far as he was concerned, hey, when, where, and what
exactly?
When, where, what do I bring? That's all he needed to know.
And I think he brought a lot more than what Picard was expecting.
Very much so. And like
even
I said,
the reaction showed.
Beautifully done. And the one favorite thing about that entire episode was awesome. Riker tied down Troy. Where's Crusher?
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, Riker got everything in life that he was wanting. I mean, he got to command a starship. He got to have a long career. He got to have the wife and the kid and the home and this and that. But he always felt that loyalty to Picard.
Always did.
I mean, he passed up command after command after command because he always felt like that was the place he was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. Can't really blame the guy for that either.
No,
but
I mean, the way that Picard phrased it to him at one point was, being the first officer on the flagship gives you a certain air of distinction, but you're still just second in command. Becoming a captain, well, it's a great opportunity for you, but you're going to be going to this little known ship and this little known quadrant of the galaxy. You kind of fade into the background because you're no longer on the Enterprise.
Yeah, but everybody's got to start somewhere. Picard didn't, suddenly become a captain and just, hey, here's the flagship of the Federation, right? Worked his way up there, and that's the same way that Riker would have had to gone too. Right.
Yeah, but when Riker finally decided to sit down in the big chair, though, he was put on one of the newest ships, and
very much
he was sent on a high-profile mission on behalf of the Federation.
Mm-hmm. But he had also been the executive officer of a very high-profile ship, and Starfleet knew, when that time finally came that he was taking command, they knew this is the guy who can handle it. So. Yeah,
they finally figured out how to get him to sit down in the big chair, and it was offer him a glamorous ride. Okay, I mean, he's not going to settle for, hey, here's this old Excelsior class starship that it is janky as all hell, and you're just going to be kind of patrolling. You're not going to get the choice missions and everything. It was, hey, let's put him on one of the newest ships in the fleet, and let's send him on this mission that, he's already familiar with because, oh, wait, that's where the Enterprise just wrapped up their last mission.
Yeah.
And let's give him the glitz and glam. And what do you know?
Quite honestly,
He
at
sat
that
down.
point, anything less would have been a waste of talent anyway. So you don't take a guy with that experience and send him off to, do the job of the Cerritos.
Exactly. Yes, from lower decks. Yes, you don't send him to do that. The cameo in the final episode of
Oh my God.
for him and
Absolutely
Troy,
hilarious.
great.
Loved it.
They show up, they take care of the pack lids, and Riker's just sitting there in his chair, and he leans over and he's talking to Counselor Troy. He's like, and in his mind he's thinking, our duty shift is up in 20 minutes, and shooting some pack lids definitely got number one going. So we're gonna do this when we get back to our quarters. But then he leans in and he just starts saying, they've had a long road getting from there to here. I'm like, that is such the perfect hat tip. And you have Troy saying, don't do that.
Don't do that. Probably in reference to the last time they did a last episode on something that didn't go so well.
Oh man, that's
absolutely horrible.
God, that was terrible.
I think probably the facepalm moment for me on that one though, it was just like, it was so bad, but it was so Riker. Give me warp in the factor of 5, 6, 7, 8. I was like, are you kidding me?
Well, I mean, Picard always did say that it would be his ship, and he would be able to inspire his crew through his personality. And you got to throw something quirky.
He did it.
The whole jazz musician thing. Yeah. That's exactly what that was a hat tip to. And
well, that's what I was saying. It was so bad, but it was so Riker.
Exactly. The only issue I had with the Picard season 1, other than turning him into an android, which I think that was just totally writer's block because of CBS and Paramount going to him saying no, we're continuing this.
Oh, by the way,
shit,
what do we get? We were going to kill him. What do we do now?
Exactly. So they figured out a way, but apparently that is going to be retcon thanks to Q in season 2. We'll see how that goes.
Bad idea.
Because apparently they broke time. I didn't like the ending with 7 of 9, and that was betting a female. I'm thinking no, and that's just more, just
personal preference.
No. I mean, it just seemed like, wait a second, where did this come? It was we're throwing it in there, and we gave absolutely zero explanation.
Yeah, and that's where I hate when they do stuff like that, because had it been a storyline that had been built right, I don't have a problem with anything like that, not at all. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. You live your life the way you're going to live your life. When you're at the end of an arc and just out of nowhere, boom, lesbian relationship. Like, huh? What the hell did that? Yeah. That was probably one of the big, why did you do that?
And I'm sorry, don't take absolute perfection off the market for us guys.
Yeah,
no.
Yeah.
No.
That was literally an appeasement moment, is what that was. It was appeasing to certain people. It's the only reason why they put it in there. I will say that straight. CBS, I dare you to come to my home. I will tell you to your face, you fucked up with that move.
Yeah. And now the fan theories out there about DS9's Dr. Bashir and Garrick being gay, like we have to pigeonhole, we have to assign sexuality to everybody and everything now, and it's just I don't need it. I don't need that in my life.
No,
most people don't need it in their lives. We just want to be able to.
Humanity
enjoy
lived
the
how long
show.
Without doing that?
Exactly, and I mean, like I said, just don't take 7 of 9 off the market for the guys. I mean, no.
that was probably the other.
Are you going to make her buy? I mean, am I able to jump in that sandwich?
That's probably the other disappointing thing about her character in Picard was no more skin tight suits.
Yeah. That's okay. You could look at her and you could just imagine it.
Yes.
I know I did.
Yes. Yes, I did.
This baggy, this jacket and these, looser fitting clothes. Yeah, I still see you in the cat suit. Sorry, you're not shaking that mental image from my head.
No, not at all.
Just like Counselor Troy when she was in all those skin tight suits. Yeah, you're not erasing that image from my head. Period.
That change I actually didn't have so much of a problem with, although I wish they hadn't made it just as sudden and permanent as they did. So,
well, at least they gave a reason for it.
They did, because I look at it in a couple of different ways. A, she's the ship's counselor, right? So having those certain outfits where, I am simply here as a person to talk to you and whatnot, absolutely vitally necessary. Some of the dresses that she had, it was just kind of like, no, you need to find something different, right? But for that, it wasn't so much even like the skin tight aspect of it. Just as it was something comfortable. It was something casual, something where I am a person. I am here to help you with whatever your issue is, right? Mm-hmm. Now, absolutely, for certain, like once she passed the bridge officer's exam, right? In those situations where, okay, I am on the duty shift as the CDO, the command duty officer, I'm the one on the bridge running things at the moment. Absolutely, in that type of situation, she needs to be in something more formal, or in other situations where okay, we're dealing with a specific delegation type thing or something like that. Absolutely, have the Starfleet uniform available for that type of stuff. When she's doing her counselor duties, stick to the casual stuff.
Yeah, like Captain Jellicoe said, I prefer a particular formality on the bridge.
No argument.
Regulation uniform. Okay, if she's on the bridge, put the uniform on. Otherwise, wear whatever you want. And for a while there, she actually did that. Mm-hmm. It was, I'm on duty. I'm on the bridge. I'm wearing the uniform. I'm off duty. I'm going to wear the things that I've always worn because, that's what everybody expected, right?
Which and when you really think about it, until she took the bridge officer's exam, she really had no reason to be on the bridge other than, counselor, I need your opinion on something, or, she had nothing else going on in her schedule. Hey, I'm going to go up and see what everybody's doing right now. So for her to be in, typical Starfleet uniform all the time wouldn't necessarily have been anything other than, no, I just want you in that uniform on the bridge. Which,
yeah, exactly.
I'm in the Navy, as you can see. That's I will admit that is the way that on military warships it is a very formal setting, right? You're in the command center of the ship. You need a certain level of formality. We're not talking about a military ship in Star Trek, though, right? They are explorers first. They are delegates first, right? They are military as needed. Mm-hmm. So that certain level of formality is not quite as strict in those cases. She's the ship's counselor. If she's not the one running the show at the moment, let her show up in a daggum burlap sack if she wants to.
Well, no, because that's too loose fitting. And back then, that body was too banging for that.
I wouldn't have complained. Depending on how you cut the burlap sack.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely. All right. I'm with you there. Nicely done there. So, I totally agree with you on your standpoint there where you were talking about libs getting Star Trek wrong. Because, I know since you don't watch Discovery, I don't know how close attention you pay to it whenever you see a story about it pop up on the internet or something, but they've gone out of their way in terms of their casting. And in recent seasons, it's been, hey, we have the first open non-gender binary character, or actor, actress,
who cares?
Character portrayer, and they're playing this gender non-specific role.
Who cares?
Okay, yeah. We have the first trans in Star Trek now. Oh, isn't this wonderful? Who cares? Do we need it? And Discovery, the most recent season, gave me a huge fucking scare because they said that this non-gender binary person was going to be playing a Trill.
Why?
Reasons? Because they have to go back and they have to pull as many elements from all the other shows that they can, because there's familiarity with these and people already have fond memories of these, so we have to deconstruct those to create new memories.
I don't even think the Federation had reached Trill at that point.
Well, since they were catapulted into the future, now that they're in the future,
when the hell are they going to leave time travel alone?
Well, see, I thought that
was one of the things why I had such a hard time initially getting into Enterprise, was just
because it was a prequel series.
Well, it was not so much that, but just they kept bringing in that, that organization that was trying to keep the future on track and everything like that. It's like, we're dealing with the beginnings of the Federation here, guys. We're trying to tell a story about how everything got started, and you want to bring the future into it already?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was a big problem. Big problem with me as well.
The episode, or the episode where they did the mirror universe thing, I thought that was brilliant. I loved it. That was absolutely brilliant. Having the future continually coming in and trying to keep everything on track, like, why? We're trying to tell a story about the beginnings. Save that for like later on, right? There's absolutely no reason to be touching anything like that, and that's why I had a hard time getting into Enterprise at first, was when they kept bringing that in, and no, and so you just gave me another reason not to watch Discovery. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, with Discovery, I mean, when they announced it, and they said, this is going to take place 10 years before Kirk and Spock. Why? Because we get to explain this thing that happened that has never really been explained before. Okay, so you're going to talk about the Federation Klingon War, and then what? That was basically it. It's like, okay, well, why else are you here? And they had started writing themselves into just this corner, and then they started rewriting canon, established canon throughout 50 plus years.
This is one of the reasons why I can't watch the new Star Wars trilogy. They completely obliterated canon.
Yep. And so they decided that, okay, the only way we could really give ourselves creative freedom is if we jump into the 29th century or something like that. We shoot so far into the future that nobody knows anything about what may have happened. So we can write our own chapter. Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. You should have just started the show there. Instead of
at least then the technological state of the ship would have made more sense.
Yeah, this 23rd century ship is now flung 900 years into the future, and they have finally arrived at Starfleet headquarters, and they show all these different ships and space dock and everything. And one of them is the USS Nog, which I thought was a brilliant hat tip to Aaron Eisenberg, who had passed away before that season had started filming. So I thought that was a really cool touch. I'm all about fan service in subtle ways like that.
Absolutely.
Where if you blink, you miss it. But then right beside the USS Nog was USS Voyager NCC 74565-J. And it looked exactly like Janeway's Voyager, just kind of upgraded to look more futuristic. And I'm thinking, why? One, don't you think the Intrepid class would have been retired a long time ago, and any type of ship of the line of that would be looking completely different, seeing as the Enterprise Constitution class, the Constitution refit, the Enterprise B was Excelsior class, Enterprise C was Ambassador class, Enterprise D was Galaxy class, E was Sovereign.
Yep.
They all had very different looks. You know,
Well, I mean, they kept the same basic like design structure, but
saucer, nacelles, drive section. You know, I mean, there were design elements that were common in terms of these are the parts that are needed, but
gotta be careful
the way they were all stacked together.
I could very easily go into so many tangents because I know I have blueprints, I have tech manuals, I could very easily launch into different stuff. Did you know?
Oh, so you were that deep into it. All right.
I don't have any dictionary, so I don't speak Klingon or anything like that. But
yet.
Did you know that the Galaxy class starship has a cetacean lab in the middle of the saucer?
Yes, I subscribe to a YouTube channel known as Trek Culture, and they do a little series, and they've been doing various ships, and it's like 10 things you didn't know about such and such ship. And on the Enterprise D, they did there's a cetacean lab, and there's dolphin officers. There's also a shopping mall.
They explain why they did that, though.
They didn't get like way into detail because these are like maybe 10-minute episodes, so it's really just kind of like bang, 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 bang. But they gave a little bit of an explanation, but I just was blown away by, wait a second, there's dolphins on the Enterprise D that in times of crisis, if the human crew is incapacitated, supposedly these dolphins can run the ship.
It's not just that.
Really?
What happened in Star Trek 4?
Oh, they had to go back and save those whales.
They had to save the whales because of that probe that was sent back.
Uh-huh.
So part of the reason why they keep whales and dolphins on board is if they ever encounter another probe or
like
the race that sent it.
Huh. Look at that. Learned something new today.
Mm-hmm.
That is very interesting.
So,
any other good little nuggets like that? I mean,
did you know phaser is actually an acronym?
For
phased energy rectification.
Huh. Rectification.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I know way too many things. The next generation warp scale is actually redesigned from the original series. So
yeah, because I think the pivot point on that was supposed to be the quote transwarp failure of the Excelsior led them to redesign the warp scale.
Well, not just that, but just
right?
the way that warp technology had advanced. The old warp scale, had they just left it at that, then they would have been traveling at like really high speeds. So like the in the original series, I don't remember which episode it is, but the original Enterprise got flung off somewhere, and they were reported at doing warp 14.67893 or whatever. On the next generation scale, that's about warp 6.
Okay.
So just basically with the changes in warp technology, you know, had they not rescaled the warp factors, then at warp 9 they actually would have been doing like warp 23 or something like that. So
in the TNG series finale, when Riker says warp 13, that's just no big deal, because
that would have had to be another
redefined.
Not to mention, and this was actually addressed in Voyager, warp 10 is unattainable because that is considered infinite speed. You will be occupying all points in the universe at once. So it would have had to have been another warp scale redesign for that, because by the scale that they were working on, they never would have been able to pass warp 10.
Gotcha. Okay.
And they actually had a lot of fun with that episode of Voyager, passing warp 10 like they never thought they'd be able to. And showing, this is why we're not going to do this. So, that's another captain that has babies somewhere. They're not human babies, but they are babies.
Yeah,
So,
that's true. That's very, very, very true. So you mentioned you're in the Navy. So give us a little bit about yourself and everything, and give us your social handles and all the things that people need to know.
so as far as sorry, our watch is buzzing because I got some phone call. Somebody trying to contact me about something. I don't know what that is, but
I mean, we've only been chatting here for like 2.5 hours
that's
now.
all.
So
I imagine most of this is probably going to get cut. That's cool.
Actually, I plan on running it in its entirety, just probably over a 2-parter now.
Fun times.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I've been in the Navy for 20 years. I joined up back in 2001. I initially started out in the Navy's nuclear power program as an electrician's mate, and I did that for 7 years on submarines. That was a lot of fun. And then I went to...
Being in a submerged tin can, I can imagine.
I loved it. It was absolutely wonderful community. I mean, you're talking about people that are isolated, for months at a time, like from everybody. You may not know this, you can't get internet when you're underwater. So,
I don't find that very shocking.
Yeah.
I mean,
so it's very literally.
At the same time, I find it barbaric.
Yeah, it's very literally. You've only got these 100 some odd people to rely on, right? You might every now and then, get some message from home or something like that, but otherwise, those are the only people you have to rely on. So you form really, really great unions, a lot of camaraderie and stuff like that. Like even the person on the ship that you might hate the most, when the shit hits the fan, you're still going to jump in and pull them out because you rely on each other that much. Mm-hmm. And I was really sad when I wound up having to leave that community. I went to my first shore duty as a recruiter, and for medical reasons, I wound up not being able to go back. So I wasn't allowed to go back to submarines. I wasn't allowed to go back to nuclear power. So I transitioned over to, I now work on gas turbine engines, more specifically their control systems. And for those who may not know what a gas turbine engine is, that's the engines that they use on airplanes, right? So you look at a 747, you see that big old engine hanging underneath the wing. That's a gas turbine engine. I work on those. They've simply been modified so that instead of providing thrust, they provide torque to turn a propeller. So I work on the electrical side of those, handling their control systems and the auxiliary systems that run off of electricity and make them run. So been in over 20 years now. I'm actually getting ready to retire here soon. So, not sure where I'm going yet from there. Probably going to go work at a civilian power plant somewhere. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that sounds like that would be right up your alley. So
very much so, and it wasn't something I ever expected. For a long time, I was very dead set against going into the military. I was like, not going to happen. My dad was in for 28 years, and he was gone a lot. I was like, I'm never going to do that, and then I wound up working at a bookstore for 2 years, and I loved it to death, but it just wasn't providing what I needed in order to really get out into the world. And at the begging of my...
Now, did you, you said that you had joined in 2001,
yes.
Pre or post 9/11?
Pre.
Okay.
I went to...
I was just curious when you said 2001, because I know that, I had just graduated high school and had started my freshman year of college when 9/11 happened. And I remember so many people from my graduating class of high school, since we were all fresh out, a lot of them went into military service because that moment in time just triggered them, and that's what they went to do. I didn't. My knee had been all screwed up and jacked up, and I had surgery on it, and they're like, yeah, no. the physical requirements. I mean, I had rehabbed and I was pretty much back into peak shape at that time, but they said, yeah, based on just that alone, you wouldn't be able to even think about it. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I went to boot camp in January of 2001, and then I went straight from there to a nuclear power training pipeline. And I was actually at home after my first phase of training down there. and it was like 2 days before I was supposed to go back. Was when it happened, and I remember that day very clearly because I was actually at my recruiter's office where I had signed up to join, and I was spending a few days there helping out because that's something that happens a lot with a lot of the newer recruits. They go home for their first leave, spend a few days at their old recruiter's office, and they go around and talk about, yeah, this is what I've been experiencing since I've joined and stuff like that. And I was doing a similar thing with them, and they had the radio playing while I was there, and they're like, you know what, man, you're getting ready to go back to school. We don't really have anything going on. Go home, spend the next couple of days with your family. It's all good. And as I was saying goodbye to everybody, that's when we heard about the first plane hitting the towers. And everybody was just like, good God, that guy was an idiot. How do you fly a plane in a building? We didn't.
Then you find out more.
We didn't think anything of it. I got in my truck and got it started up, and I turned on the radio. I was like, wonder who else is talking about this. And, I'm just driving along, and that's when I heard them say something about the second plane, and that's when the moment hit me. I was like, that's not an idiot pilot. We're under attack. And and mind you, this is 2001. I'm in a 91 Ford Exploder. So I floored it as best as I could. I think I got it all the way up to 56 by the time I got home.
Oh. You were right on that. You were right on the edge
right
there. If you had hit 57, we wouldn't be talking right now.
At least I didn't get it up to 88. But
exactly.
But I basically floored it and got home. I didn't even bother getting out of uniform or anything. I turned on the TV and I sat there for like 4 hours just watching, and that was what was on everything. Like I think they shut everything off that day. I don't remember. I found the first news channel I could think of and literally sat there for hours. I was watching when the towers collapsed. I remember, the towers collapsing, and they didn't even notice at first because everybody's just talking, and all of a sudden, whoa, did you see that? And
yeah,
I
was sitting in class, and freshman year of college. I mean, and not like I went to a major university. I went to Tarrant County College, which is based, community college, junior college, whatever. We called it Harvard on the highway. And sitting in class, get done, and I had about 45 minutes to an hour before my next class. So I go over to the library because, hey, they have, all of these computers with internet. So just get on. I start surfing, and I pull up a website and for a local radio station, and they on the top it was they show they have the picture, and it's just the headline is just talking about what happened, and I'm thinking, is this a joke? I mean, because it seems so far out of the realm of possibility that wait, we're under attack by planes flying into buildings in New York that it didn't compute at first. So I decided, okay, well, I still got time. I'm going to go out to my car, and I jump in the car. I turn on the radio and turn it to, our local news talk station that I had interned there, and I was working for one of the sister stations at the time. And it's wall-to-wall coverage from ABC News, wall-to-wall, and with local break-ins, and thinking, holy shit. And I get out of my car and I walk to my next class, and the teacher walks in, and we're all sitting there, and I'm talking to a couple of people about it beforehand, and they had no idea what had happened. The teacher comes in and says, there are times in life when there are things more important than what we're doing here right now. So go home, be with your families. Okay. I get out of class. I turn on my cell phone because I had the habit of, I'm going to turn my cell phone off when I go into class. Otherwise, I know I'm going to be finger fucking it the whole time, even though this was the old school flip phone that you couldn't do anything with other than play Snake.
I remember those.
Yeah. And I turned it on, and I had 2 voicemails from the radio station I worked at saying, hey, don't know if you saw the news, but it's all hands on deck. We need you to come in. So, and then the other one was, hey, haven't heard back from you. We need you here.
Yeah.
So I call up my boss. I said, hey, sorry, I was in class. He said, no, I understand, you have school and everything, but we need, are you able to come in? I was like, yeah, I'll be there. So I got in the car and I drove, hauled ass to the radio station.
Yep.
And granted, I mean, what are we going to do in Dallas? Okay. I mean, there's no impact we can really have, but it was, just show up I had been working at that station for less than 6 months. First job in radio. I don't know shit. Okay. I was your weekend overnight buried where if you screw up, nobody knows because nobody's listening guy. But it was, hey, you know how to edit audio, you know how to edit tape. So what we need you to do is we need you to go in here. We need you to just record the feeds, and we just need you to cut up news bites and things like that. Okay, cool. And I was there for 8 hours.
That's more about it than I could have done, because I had that very similar type of feeling. It took me a little while to get to that point, because like I said, I was glued to that TV for hours, but I got to a point I was like, I got to call the command. I got to call the schoolhouse, see what I need. Are they going to be trying to call everybody back or whatnot?
Exactly, yeah.
Like you were saying earlier, when that happened, a lot of people started showing up at the recruiter's office. Hey, we just got attacked. I want to help do something about it. So here I'm 6 months out of boot camp. All I've got is, very basic training on my job as an electrician in the Navy now. But my first concern was I might need to go out and do something because of this. And so I'm calling the schoolhouse, hey, I just saw what's going on. And I imagine everybody's going nuts trying to figure out what's going on. Like, yeah, dude, I mean, you're in school. We don't have the ability to send you out to a ship yet. So, for right now.
So you're just you just continue doing what you were doing before.
When are you supposed to be coming back? I was like, I'm supposed to be back in a couple of days. They're like, well, if you're able to come back in a couple of days, because we don't know what's going to happen with the flights or anything right now. Basically what it comes down to is stand by. If something comes up, we'll let you know.
I'm going to guess that as a service member, that was the most helpless feeling in the world.
It was actually kind of frightening, to be honest, because, intellectually, I don't think anybody has any illusions as to what they're signing up for. But it's one of those things where it's like, what are the chances, right? And it wasn't even so much that, oh my God, if I'd known this was going to happen, I never would have signed up. Just who would have thought this actually would happen in my time kind of thing is what that was. So very much was like, oh my God, I might actually be going off somewhere. And in some ways, fortunately, with the way that this particular conflict has gone, I've never directly been a part of it. So no vessel that I've ever been on has actually gone over and launched missiles for it or anything like that, or at least if they have, it wasn't while I was on board.
No. I was going to ask if you had ever seen active combat in any of your roles there.
No, I have done some pretty cool stuff. 98% of it I can't actually talk about.
You and Tyler both.
That's
because that's the stuff that I'd want to talk about. I'd want to find out.
It's the nature of the beast. So
yeah, I totally understand. A very good friend of mine. We grew up together through school, through middle school, high school, and everything. And he works. He's never been in the military, but he works for the Department of Energy. That's the one. And there's, even they can't. He can't talk about most of the stuff that he does.
Yeah.
Like, well, what do you do? I can't really talk about it. Okay, well, give me something that you do. I inspect fire systems. Really?
Yep.
You inspect fire systems? He said, yeah. And on occasionally, I get to burn stuff. Well, tell me about the burning of stuff.
Can't talk. Yep.
Like, wait a second. You work in you're out in Tennessee at Oak Ridge, which anybody who does any research on Oak Ridge knows. So what are you doing over there? Can't talk about it. You ever find some loose nuclear parts? Can't talk about it. Damn it. Can you get hands on plutonium? Can't talk about it.
No,
Damn it.
especially when it comes to the nuclear power stuff, they are very, very, very tight about that. So it's outside of like combat units like the SEALs and whatnot, that is probably one of the tightest regulated aspects of the military is the nuclear power program.
That's
and
great.
I wish I could tell you.
I mean, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense.
I could tell you more about
it,
it, but I can't.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. So the skills and the training that you had in the military, did you have a natural like proclivity to it?
Some of it,
because
the nuclear power program obviously is one that you would have to be very good at math for. Which I hate math with a passion. I'm thankfully my skills are far above the levels of, say, one Keith Malinak. I mean, I hate the subject, but I'm actually really good at math. So, that very much came in handy. And I found out I actually have something of a knack for troubleshooting. So, when it started coming down to the point of learning how to find out what's wrong and fix it, I found out I'm actually really good at that. So,
oh yeah, I mean, there's no better way to learn that stuff than having your feet to the fire and having to just
which I've done on numerous occasions. So
yeah, I mean, math was never a good subject for me. As soon as we got to letters as numbers, it was game over because to me, X was always 24.
To be perfectly upfront, when I first went to talk to the recruiter, I initially told them I wanted to do something with photography or journalism. So I've always been I've always enjoyed literature. I've had my fun with photography and whatnot. I actually have a byline for a photo in Navy Recruiting Magazine.
Oh, nice.
And I love writing. I was.
Do you have a digital copy of that photo? Do you have like a picture of that picture?
I've got it somewhere. I'm pretty sure I can find it on my Facebook page at the least. If not, my mother should still have a copy of it, and I can just have her scan one or something.
I mean, if it was easy to get to, I'd say, hey, I'll include it with some like episode art, but I'm not.
Yeah, I'd have to dig.
It's not a hey, I have to have this.
Yeah, I'd have to dig for it a little bit. But that's cool that you're I mean, you're a published photographer. Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a mass communication specialist. At the time, it was split up into various different things, but it's all been conglomerated into just one job grouping called mass communication specialist, and that's what I wanted to do. And then they got my ASVAB scores back and saw my math scores and stuff like that, and they're like, hey, how does nuclear power sound to you? And I was like, that sounds nothing like photography or journalism. So
yeah, but that would have been my response. It sounds nothing like what I want to do, but
well, they snagged me with the thing.
I've been told once you sign on the dotted line, you can't really say no.
Lots of ways you can say no. Not all of them are necessarily acceptable, but there's lots of ways you can say no. But they spoke to me in the language that I was looking at the time, which was I was looking for a better paying job. And they were like, nuclear power will pay you way better than mass communication specialist will. So,
oh, well then sign me up.
That's pretty much what it came down to. So.
Yeah, I had people that I worked with that had served in the military. They were all telling me, go sign up and get in with Armed Forces Radio because that'd be great for you. You'd gain experience, and when you come back and you're done with that, doors will open, because being just a 17-year-old or 18-year-old kid who had just gotten his first gig in radio, they're saying, this is a good way to gain experience without, otherwise they were saying, hey, why don't you move to Timbuktu, Iowa and find a rinky-dink little radio station and start working there? Because I'm already here in Dallas. Why would want to go someplace like that. I mean, Market 5 versus Market 135. Well, come to find out, I mean, you don't exactly get the experience you really want when you're in Market 5. You get the experience that they're willing to let you get.
Yeah.
So, but it worked out. But then, so I had considered going about it that way. But then they said, yeah, there's no guarantees. So
No, there's really not, especially not in.
So if you're really set on doing this as a career, this probably isn't going to be the right way to go about it for you. And I was like, so I've got these guys on one side telling me to do this. I've got the military guys telling me not to do it this way. What the hell am I supposed to do?
And really, it boils down to what does the military need? And if they say, yeah, we really don't need you in that position, we could put you elsewhere, but we really don't need you in that position, that's a pretty good indication that you probably want to go elsewhere if that's what you're set on doing.
Yeah.
So,
but it didn't work out for me. But hey, it seems like it has provided quite a life for you with a lot of unique experiences that you can't talk about.
it most certainly has.
It's secret.
Someday when I'm on my deathbed, maybe then I'll be allowed to talk about them.
But hey, he got paid more.
That I did.
And you have skills that you can easily take over to the civilian marketplace and probably cash in even more that way. So
Looking forward to it too.
That's cool. You're like, all right, finally, and you get a government pension on top of it, right? So hey, when you retire, so hey, you're set.
Mm-hmm.
I think I hear the money truck beeping, backing up to your house now. Nope. Based on your look, I'm gonna guess
Not yet. Probably somebody dropping off the wrong pizza again.
What? Does that happen a lot?
Happened last night.
Really? Did you get a free pizza out of it?
Thankfully,
What?
I'm very particular about my pizza. So,
okay.
Thankfully, they had not, because I wasn't able to get to the door quite fast enough, so they just left it on the doorstep. But thankfully, by the time I got there, they had not completely left. So when they saw me standing there with these pizzas in my hand, like, where the hell did this come from? They were like, is that not yours? I was like, no. They're like, oh, well, can you tell me where the door to apartment L this is? I was like, well, this is the door, but nobody here ordered pizza. They're like, oh, that's weird. I was like, yeah, here. So,
whoopsie. That's crazy. That is crazy. Well, Steven, hey man, I appreciate you coming on and your socials, your social handles.
Everybody knows the Twitter when you put that out at the beginning at President of DCBP. And on Saturday nights, like tonight, you can generally find me in the live chat room of Tyler Morgan's Relentless Daring podcast, annoying the living shit out of him.
Yes, I was going to say that is when he came on and we were talking. He mentioned you and how you are a thorn in his side,
just a little bit
when he is doing his show. So, give me your side of what you do to one Tyler Morgan.
I'm going to be perfectly honest here. When it comes to a lot of what's going on here, I am fairly new. Right. I actually hadn't even heard of The Blaze until just a couple of years ago. And I actually ran into one Graham Allen doing one of his car rants on Facebook. And I started looking into this guy, and I was like, who the hell is this guy? And that's when I figured out who he worked for. And from there, I came across Pat Gray Unleashed and found this whole group of absolute whack jobs on Twitter. And
whack jobs.
Started talking with them, and I started listening to the show, and that's when I started actually, contributing on my own. So I don't actually have the necessary skills myself yet to really keep up with what's going on out there in the world. I catch a couple things here and there, but usually I'm catching up on what other people have already figured out. So generally, what you'll find me doing is I'm either interjecting my opinion, or I'm just being an absolute troll, on Twitter at least. I will troll the living shit out of somebody because it'll be like, you're a moron and it's obvious there's no getting through to you, so I'm just going to annoy the crap out of you until you block me. So I'm actually fairly good at that. When it comes to Tyler, obviously I love Tyler to death. His show is, probably the second greatest thing since sliced bread. And
wow, that is high praise.
it is. So
do I need to cut this part out so he doesn't hear that?
No,
oh, okay.
No, he knows I love him. But yeah.
But for the high praise of second best thing since sliced bread,
it'll probably just motivate him to be, the best thing.
Okay.
But with him, it's mostly just snarky commenting rather than trolling. So, and
yeah.
I enjoy trying to do so in such a way that it just makes him fall apart for a moment. As he said, I'm actually quite accomplished at derailing his train of thought. So, for the most part, it's a lot of commenting on what's being said. Sometimes it's finding a way to do so that it just makes him completely lose track. We all have fun with it. So
yeah, I will say this: the community of whack jobs that you say that you have found, I have to agree that yes, it's a community of whack jobs. But I will say I've worked on a lot of shows, and a few of them national, a lot of them local, and I have never found a better audience for a show.
Oh, most definitely.
I mean, it really blows me away how, whack jobs, yes, but cool as shit in terms of just the dedication, the loyalty, the tweets, the random random care packages that are sent in from time to time. It's a very dedicated group of people that, very, very diverse in terms of thought processes, backgrounds, education levels.
Absolutely.
It's really the quote melting pot, even though I hate that phrase. It's really a great melting pot of people that, get behind programs like Pat Gray, Unleashed, and The Blaze, and other entities like that. I just find it awesome. I don't think there's a better audience out there than what we get to experience at The Blaze. Yeah. Really, honestly,
the fact that they've accepted me into the group, I absolutely adore that. In fact, the whole Pretty Princess thing wasn't even my idea. That actually came from one B.S. Mariani. Just kind of making jokes about the gifts that I was using at the time, because I was using a lot of princess-themed gifts to respond to things at the time. And so one day she's like, "Oh, so we're identifying as a princess today, I see." And I just ran along with it. I was like, "Oh, you think it's just today? This is an all-the-time thing, And so the joke came out about, "Oh, Steve's a pretty princess. Steve's a pretty princess," and of course, from there on, the Twitter handle's been some form of, pretty princess or patriot princess, or I think at one point I had princess of or whatever it was that Joe Biden babbled out that one day. I don't know that any.
Which day? Bad Cath Care?
No, the other
True International Liberation.
Yeah, that one. So I was the princess of that at one point. But yes, we have B.S. Mariani to thank for the Pretty Princess being who he is today.
B.S. Mariani follows my cat Ryoga on Twitter now. Ryoga followed back.
I didn't even know he had a Twitter page. I'll have to check that out.
He's got a Twitter page. He's not very active. He spends a lot of time sleeping.
As most cats do. Although my cat, if I didn't have the door shut, he'd be sitting in my lap right now because he loves being on video calls. So.
Oh, so does Ryoga. In fact, I'm surprised that he's not up here, because typically, so my wife is a national news anchor, right? And she works from home. And I've got on the other side of where I'm sitting, I have this desk with a big mixer, the same type of microphone Keith uses at the Blaze. She has one of those, and she's got 2 computer monitors. I mean, this huge setup, right? She does stuff for a national news network, and she does stuff for a few local stations. And he is notorious for any time that she starts recording, he will either wake up or he will walk into the room and he will just start shouting.
Yep.
And as much as you try to kill the background noise, he pops up in the recordings.
Oh, yeah.
And whenever I'm in here recording, he usually does the exact same thing, or he'll jump in my